The average Social Security check in America is about $1,800 a month. Now pause for a second and compare that to reality. In many parts of the country, a modest one-bedroom apartment costs anywhere from $1,400 to $1,800 a month. That's before groceries, before utilities, before gas, and certainly before the medical expenses that Medicare doesn't fully cover. When you lay the numbers side by side, it's not dramatic. It's just math. And for millions of retirees, that math simply doesn't work anymore. What makes it harder is this: most of these people did everything right. They worked 30, 40, sometimes 45 years. They paid into the system. They skipped vacations. They saved when they could. They believed retirement would finally feel lighter. And yet for many, it feels heavier than ever. If you did everything right, worked 30, 40 years, and still feel like retirement is slipping away, this video is for you. 3. Mexico. Freedom close to home. Mexico isn't an escape for many retirees. It's an adjustment small on the map, but significant in how life feels. In San Miguel de Allende, mornings begin with church bells echoing over cobblestone streets. Sunlight reflects off soft yellow and terracotta walls. Locals sit outside small cafes sipping strong coffee, talking slowly. No one rushes. No one seems chased by the clock. Further south, Lake Chapala stretches wide and calm beneath open blue skies. Retirees walk along the waterfront each morning, greeting one another like longtime neighbors. The atmosphere isn't flashy, it's steady. Peaceful in a way that settles into your shoulders. And in Puerto Vallarta, sunset feels like a daily ceremony. The sky shifts from gold to orange to deep violet over the Pacific. People gather along the Malecon, sitting quietly, listening to the waves. Life doesn't try to impress. It simply unfolds. Mexico can be summed up in one line: close enough to visit family, far enough to breathe, close enough for grandchildren to fly in within a few hours, far enough that financial pressure begins to ease. Linda and Mark, 72 and 70, spent decades in a 3-bedroom home in Arizona. They bought it in the 1990s. Over time, property taxes rose, insurance climbed, maintenance costs multiplied. They eventually asked themselves a difficult question: why are we maintaining a house this large for just 2 people? They sold it. Before purchasing a small condo near Lake Chapala, they rented an apartment for about $800 a month to test the waters. No luxury pool, no oversized yard, but enough light, enough calm. Linda said something simple but powerful. For the first time in years, I stopped checking my bank balance every week. For the first time in years, she wasn't opening her banking app every week to see what was left. In many popular retirement areas, rent ranges from $700 to $1,200 per month. Higher-end neighborhoods cost more but still significantly less than many U.S. cities. Dining out often costs between $5 and $10 for a full meal. Groceries are typically 30 to 40% cheaper than in the United States. A couple living comfortably, not extravagantly, can often spend around $1,800 to $2,200 per month, covering housing, food, utilities, entertainment, and small trips. For residency, Mexico offers a temporary resident visa for those earning about $2,500 per month in income, or holding savings of approximately $45,000 to $50,000. The visa allows long-term. Many expats describe the process as straightforward if paperwork is properly prepared. Healthcare is another area that surprises many retirees. A private doctor visit typically costs $30 to $50. Private insurance ranges from $100 to $250 per month, depending on age and coverage. Because routine care is relatively affordable, many retirees choose to pay out of pocket for basic visits rather than rely entirely on insurance. But numbers are only part of the story. Mexico has large and established expat communities, particularly in places like San Miguel de Allende and around Lake Chapala. That makes integration easier. There are book clubs, volunteer groups, yoga classes, and social gatherings. Family can visit without crossing oceans, and the warmth of local culture often makes newcomers feel genuinely welcomed. Of course, not every region is the same. Safety levels vary depending on location. Choosing the right city, even the right neighborhood, matters. Mexico isn't a universal solution. But for Linda and Mark, the transformation wasn't about palm trees or ocean views. It was about control. They no longer felt owned by a house that kept demanding more, no longer stressed every time insurance premiums rose, no longer anxious when another repair appeared. They downsized their space. But somehow their lives felt larger. Sometimes freedom in retirement doesn't come from earning more. It comes from choosing the right place for what you already have, to finally be enough. So today we're exploring 3 countries quietly giving retirees a second chance. And we'll begin with a place that feels close to home, familiar, welcoming, and surprisingly affordable. Then we'll move to a country where safety and quality healthcare meet European charm without the crushing price tag. And finally, we'll end in a destination where your pension stretches further than most people think possible, a place where financial pressure finally loosens its grip. Let's start with the first country. 2. Portugal, Europe. Without the European price tag, Portugal feels different. Not loud, not flashy, but deep enough to remind you that you're living in historic Europe without paying Paris or London prices. In the Algarve, golden sunlight falls across dramatic coastal cliffs, with the Atlantic stretching endlessly below. Small seaside towns move at an easy pace. Outdoor cafes fill slowly in the mornings. People take their time. In Lisbon, vintage yellow trams climb steep cobblestone hills passing pastel-colored buildings that have stood for centuries. In Porto, along the Douro River, red-tiled rooftops glow at sunset and reflect softly on the water. Portugal can be summed up in one line: Europe, but gentler. Still European. Just softer around the edges. James and Carol, 68 and 66, used to live in California. They loved the climate and the ocean, but the costs kept climbing. Housing, insurance, property taxes. Each year felt tighter than the last. They weren't poor, but they felt pressure building. Eventually, they relocated to the Algarve. They rented a 2-bedroom apartment near the coast for about $1,200 a month. James once said something very direct: healthcare alone changed everything. Just knowing medical costs were manageable removed a layer of stress they had carried for years. No more surprise bills. No more hesitation about scheduling appointments. In the Algarve, rent typically ranges from $900 to $1,400 per month, depending on location. In smaller towns, it can run between $700 and $1,000. A comfortable lifestyle for a couple usually falls between $2,000 and $2,500 per month, including housing, food, transportation, and modest travel or entertainment. It's not the cheapest option on this list, but compared to much of the US or Western Europe, the difference is meaningful. For residency, Portugal offers the D7 visa for those with passive income. The official minimum requirement is about €820 per month. In reality, many retirees feel more secure showing closer to $1,500 or more. After 5 years of legal residency, you can apply for permanent residency. That long-term stability matters. Portugal's healthcare system combines public and private options. Many expats choose private insurance, typically costing between $80 and $200 per month, depending on age and coverage. Overall medical expenses are significantly lower than in the United States. For James and Carol, that shift alone changed their sense of financial security. Beyond the numbers, there are other qualities that are harder to measure. Portugal consistently ranks as one of the safest countries in Europe. Public transportation is reliable and easy to use. You can take a train from Lisbon to Porto or from the Algarve north without driving. Life moves more slowly. Afternoons stretch longer. People seem less rushed. But there are trade-offs. Bureaucracy can move slowly. Paperwork may take longer than expected, and the tax system has nuances that require professional advice to navigate properly. This isn't a decision to rush. Portugal isn't the lowest cost option. But for many retirees, it offers balanced, reasonable expenses paired with high quality of life. A place where you can enjoy culture, food, history, and access to the rest of Europe without constant financial strain. For James and Carol, the biggest change wasn't the scenery. It was the sense of relief. They no longer analyze every bill with anxiety. They plan small trips across Europe. They walk along the coast each morning. Life isn't extravagant, but it feels steady. Sometimes a second chance at retirement isn't about spending less. It's about worrying less. 1. Morocco, where your pension feels powerful. There are places that don't just make your money go further. They make you feel bigger again. Start in Marrakesh. In the early morning inside the old Medina, sunlight washes over terracotta walls. The scent of spices lingers in the air, and footsteps echo across worn stone streets. Life here doesn't rush. It moves slowly, deeply, with its own rhythm. A few hours away, you arrive in Essaouira. The ocean stretches wide, Atlantic winds cool the afternoon air, and small cafes face the water. Farther inland villages rest quietly beneath the Atlas Mountains, where evenings are crisp and the sky fills with stars. It feels exotic, textured, alive. And yet, it's not isolated from the world. Europe is only a short flight away. Thomas is 69 from Florida. His income is about $1,900 a month from Social Security. Back in the U.S., after rent and bills, there was barely anything left. He told me he felt like his world was shrinking, each year fewer choices, less control. In Morocco, he rents a small riad, a traditional home with an interior courtyard, for about $500 a month. In the mornings, he drinks coffee on the rooftop terrace while sunlight spills over the old city walls. He once said, "In the U.S., I felt small. Here, I feel capable again." Not because he earns more, but because what he earns is finally enough. In many Moroccan cities, rent typically ranges from $400 to $800 a month, depending on the area. A local meal often costs between $3 and $8. Markets are filled with fresh produce, warm bread baked daily, and fish brought in that morning. Living comfortably, not extravagantly, many retirees spend between $1,300 and $1,800 a month, covering rent, food, transportation, and small pleasures. For visas, most people begin with a 90-day stay. If you want to remain longer, you can apply for a 1-year residency permit and renew it, provided you show stable income. The process requires paperwork, but it's manageable. Healthcare for routine needs is reasonably priced. A private doctor visit often costs between $20 and $40. Many retirees choose international health insurance, typically around $100 to $300 a month, for larger medical situations. It's not perfect, but for many it feels far less overwhelming than the costs back home. And then something subtle happens. You wake up one morning, and money isn't the first thought in your mind. Not rent, not bills, not medical expenses, just the day ahead. When money stops being the first thing you think about in the morning, retirement finally begins. That's why Morocco feels like the climax of this list. It offers the lowest overall cost structure, but more importantly, it delivers the strongest sense of a true new chapter. It doesn't feel like a cheaper version of your old life. It feels like starting fresh. Of course, there are trade-offs. The culture is different. The language is different. The pace of life is different. Adjustment takes time. It won't be for everyone. But for those willing to step beyond what's familiar, Morocco doesn't just stretch your pension. It can restore your sense of ownership over your life. 3 countries, 3 choices, 3 different ways to live more lightly. Mexico, close to home, easy to integrate. Close enough to keep family within reach. Far enough to breathe again. A welcoming community, a manageable cost of living, and the feeling that what you have is finally enough. Portugal. Stable, safe European. A slower rhythm by the sea. Reliable healthcare. Safety and peace in everyday life. Not the cheapest option, but steady enough to help you sleep better at night. Morocco, the strongest financial freedom. A place where a modest pension suddenly carries weight. Where you wake up and money isn't your first worry. A new chapter, different, deeper, and wide open. Because in the end, retirement isn't about escaping your country. It's about finding a place where your life finally feels sustainable. Which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're seriously thinking about a fresh start, subscribe and stay with us for the journeys ahead. The right place for you might be just one decision away.